Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be wear testing the Maybelline Super Stay 24-hour skin tint. This is a skin tint plus vitamin C derivative. And then it's 30 milliliters and I'm using the color 110, which is pasty ass dude. But this might be too light for me, but this is a color that I wear normally when I don't have any sun in Maybelline's line. Luckily, they're fairly consistent across their line, so at least I know that this fits me at one point, and I wear my foundation fairly light. I'm going to be trying this skin tint. I've been on the search for skin tints, so let me say skin tint one more time, and then put some primer on. So what I'm going to do, so my skin is actually pretty thirsty and dry today, which is definitely not a normal thing. Also, I feel like my texture is out of control and I have quite a few breakouts today, so this is gonna be a short kind of just like initial like how it wears on my skin first thought, and then tomorrow, the next day, whatever, I'm going to give it a better chance of longevity and all of those things that I think it's going to have the best chance at. So, without further ado, I'm going to go in with the Smashbox Original Primer. This is such a good primer for really a lot of skin concerns. So I feel like this is a good meet me in the middle type of primer. A little bit, rub it between the hands, and press and rub. I kind of don't really know what happened to my skin between yesterday and today. I haven't been wearing really any makeup at all. Actually, I know I haven't been wearing any makeup at all for quite a few days, and for whatever reason, my face said just like be like, nope. But with that being said, the show must go wrong, right? As famously said by Jack Black in School of Rock, right? I really like movie quotes, so I try to make sure that I'm quoting the right movie. Okay, so I'm going to let that dry into my skin a little bit. I'm gonna fan myself like um, is there a male version of Diva? Is Diva genderless? Either way, I'm gonna feel like a diva for a second, and then let this absorb into my skin, and then apply my second primer, like I normally would, to give this foundation, skin tint, whatever, a fair chance. Okay, so now that I've let the first primer absorb in, I'm going to use the MAC Studio Fix Mattifying. I always have to read it. I will always mess up that. The 12-hour shine control. I'm just going to use a little bit of this because it's like 8:30 p.m. And uh, you know, the likelihood that it's gonna start being super shiny by the time I take it off is low. However, this is what I use in under pretty much all my makeup, so it would be an unfair comparison um, to not put it on there. I think I'm just trying to be fair, y'all. Just in the places that I get particularly oily and shiny throughout the day or evening. Just really pressing that in, and then I'm going to go ahead and fan myself, um, and then we'll give the foundation a try. Okay, so now that the primer, the MAC primer has settled in, I'm going to go in with the skin tint itself. Now, I had talked about spot concealing under foundation to apply the foundation over it when I tried the Milani skin tint. However, I do want to see just the coverage level over breakouts and things like that because, here we're not going to, for me, this is kind of my normal skin tone. We're not going to be able to really see, how well it's covering redness. Yes, here we can, but that doesn't compare to actual breakouts, which have a different texture, which have, dimension, all of those things. So I really want to see how it wears on that. Now, this comes in a dropper tube. What if I could just couldn't open it? That would be hilarious. This cat hair stuck to the rubber topper, so if you have pets that shed, um, you will experience that. There's no way to see exactly how much is in the dropper because there's nothing to stop to kind of wipe what's inside the tube off. So, you're kind of just guessing. I'm not going to put this directly on my face. I wouldn't do that to a client if this was the foundation I was using, so I'm not going to do it. Not going to do it on my face. It looks fun uh, when other people do it, but that's just not my gig. So I applied it to a palette and then kind of buffed it on the back of my hand. So I am applying it probably in a thinner manner than people who apply it directly to their face because I put, it's hard to kind of say, like I put, maybe like a blueberry size amount on my palette and then dabbed it off of my hand. And this is how far I'm getting with just that amount. With the skin tint, I don't want to feel cakey or like I have to really keep up with my makeup in a big way. I just want it to be kind of look like good natural skin without a lot of maintenance. And the way I wear my makeup now, that's not what I experience. So I'm getting to the end of my original amount. I'm gonna have to apply a little bit more. Make sure I get inside the creases of my nose. Now, I would say for coverage over my acne right here, we have like zero. I would say like no coverage. And this redness right here, great coverage. And I that's why I was saying like we can really see the difference. So if I had spot concealed, I would have no idea that this would cover less. Even though I did apply more foundation over it. And sometimes the thing is like with acne, it just applies differently over it. And there are different primers that help it stick to um, acne spots better, or like you can moisturize more heavily over you know acne, or kind of however you need to work with that particular skin concern. Now this is a fairly light um, this is a fairly light amount, but like I said, I'm applying it probably thinner than it was ever intended to be worn. But it does look like skin, which is really nice. It's not super crazy matte, mm, which could be nice, or it could uh, kind of show that it's going to be a problem later when I do have to, if I do get oily. I'm gonna see if this builds at all in areas where I am a little bit more red, or maybe you just kind of want to just see if it gets a little bit. kind of see how it layers up. So let's see if we just apply like directly to that area. And blend out. See, it starts to look cakey and like over the breakouts. Not a great look. But I did just like put some on the blender and just pop it on my face. And really dab it off. You can see how light it is next to my lip. I have this little thing down here, but I'm not gonna even. We're not gonna even address it right now because whatever. Now, in the crease of my nose, that's always a troublesome spot for me, keeping makeup looking good there. I think with the Milani, I tried a powder foundation first, but with my experience with Superstay, products they tend to actually dry down, whereas the Milani was kind of like a balmy stick, and I didn't know if it was actually going to dry down. So I'm gonna give this a chance to dry down by itself and see if it gets oily, especially because when I first touched, it had been like close to 20 minutes, and when I first touched the foundation, after applying it, it felt oily almost immediately. With this, it does not feel like that. It feels like there's foundation there, like a thin layer of foundation, but it does not feel crazy. Places where I applied extra product do not feel ridiculously heavy or coated in the product, and I don't feel like I mean, any crazier than usual, I guess is an important caveat. But if I just wore this and I didn't wear any other makeup, I don't feel like it would look any, I don't feel like it would cause any alarm. Sometimes when you put foundation on and you don't put anything else on, you're just like, you went with that choice? It's like maybe you shouldn't just put anything on. Maybe that would have been better. Um, but this, I feel like it looks so much like skin, and it blended so well into my natural coloring with the Beauty Blender that I felt like this just really worked out well. So I'm crossing my fingers that this stays, and it's already like there are some places where it's dried down, but it's not so dry that it's like sucks the life out of you. And like I said, even though I did put moisturizer on before I put the foundation and the primers on, I don't feel like it's sucking the life out of my skin. Now, if you have super dry skin, fairly dry skin, dehydrated skin, you want to make sure that you moisturize and maybe have a primer that does have some moisturizing properties, because I can imagine this does get fairly dry if you don't have a little bit of that. But me having drier skin right now, but also having combo skin that gets oily in this particular spot, I'm pretty impressed with how it feels right now. So I will do a check-in. It's 8:36 right now, so I'm gonna go crochet some of this madness over here. I'm working on a commission top for Pride here, and then I'm working on a present for my sister's wedding right there, and having a lot of fun with it. So yeah, here's what it looks like. It covered this redness super well. This just random redness that I have always had and get. I would say this just looks like makeup when you. This just looks like when you put makeup over acne. It doesn't. It's not wearing particularly well. I don't like how it looks. I would rather use kind of more moisturizing or drying concealers, kind of depending on the breakout and what I'm working with. So I would spot conceal with this particular product thus far. Yeah, so let's see how it wears. Okay, so we are at the 4 hour mark. It's like 12:30. at night, and I'm looking at my skin and just how some things are sitting on it and whether or not coverage is staying on. This travesty, you know, it was bound to not be great. However, it could be worse, and oftentimes is worse. One thing I remembered after the first recording is that Maybelline products have been known to break me out. Like the Fit Me product, the Fit Me foundation does break me out. So that's something to look forward to. So that could just end up adding to all of this good stuff right here. When I'm looking at like little spots, it's hard to tell that like in like the corner of my nose, product is kind of filled up. But for not setting with powder, I mean like I don't think there's a foundation in the world that won't do that. My cheeks are not oily. I have some glow to them. I mean, there's the tiniest bit of oil. And then on my forehead, there is more oil. Um, but still, I mean, like, I'm showing you all my grease. Isn't that cool? Um, I mean, like, nothing more than, like, some blotting paper or powder couldn't fix. I feel like looking at it, like, really up close, I feel like some of the coverage has started to lessen in certain spots. Like, I feel like you can see a little bit more of um, coloration of my skin, like things don't look as even. But you know, I have this like big red splotch right here, and even still, it's not like glaring. It's just like a little bit, tiny bit more visible. In certain places, like in my mustache, which I'll have to review the footage and see if I did, you know, apply primer there or not. It's broken up pretty um, pretty much entirely on my upper lip. That's a pretty specific place, so maybe I didn't apply primer there. Um, Still has like a pretty decent finish, decent coverage from like not, you know, Nat's ass view of it. I mean, I'm pretty close to the camera. I know I don't have a great camera, so don't read me down, but it doesn't it's like I don't think anyone would look at this and be like, "That looks terrible." I think it looks like uh, average, good to like decent to good, like skin tint slash foundation. So I'm very interested in spot concealing, seeing what is happening with my upper lip, and also just kind of how I can get it to where more full in a more full coverage fashion, because yeah, the places that I applied more coverage, you know, right here was one of those places. I believe I don't feel like it's like wearing, like there is more color on top of it to keep it covered. I feel like, you know, building it up didn't really do anything long term to actually make it wear. Um, but this is pretty impressive. Now, granted, I haven't done a bunch of activities. I've just been crocheting and watching some Twilight movies. You didn't hear any of that. Um, I don't care if you judge me, whatever. Um, so my lips are crazy dry. Also, please don't judge me on that. There's a lot of stuff you can judge me on. So like, pick your battles, I guess, if you're gonna do it. Um, and I also didn't apply any concealer. You know, I applied it nearby the eye. So it's in my eye area and it's not creasing. And I didn't put any powder in my like nasolabial line right here. No creasing. Occasionally, uh, like liquids and creams will crease there for me, maybe not at the 4 hour mark. So that's a little tenuous. But like I said, I expected this to be a drier formula. and it definitely is on the drier side of things, but not cakey, like casket ready dry. Um, Not sucking the life out of your skin dry. And it feels like I feel like my skin like looks like healthy and luminous, which is pretty cool. Kind of like what I've been searching for. So I'm excited to do a full day wear test, and then do a couple more tricks to keep it on. Um, I felt like with Milani, because it performed so bad, I kind of went to the opposite end of the spectrum, throwing everything at it. Yeah, I'm working on a lot of crochet projects, don't judge me. Um, I threw like everything but the kitchen sink at it, and that didn't work. And for this, because it is performing so well at the 4 hour wear mark, with really not a lot of help other than the primers that I put on that, are just kind of part of really any makeup application that I would put on, especially once, before I know anything about the foundation itself. I think that it's wearing really well. So, one thing that I'm going to look out for is it breaking me out over time. Two is kind of like longer wear test. And then three, how it couples with some of my other products that can apply a little bit more coverage. And then, because like we all break out, we all have like some. Most of us have texture. Most of us have some like redness or something going on that we kind of want to see how we can, you know, marry the products that we have together. But so far, a product that would really, really, really be comedogenic, and make you break out. I would already have like a new breakout from it, and I don't believe that I do. I normally would see it right in this zone, and I don't feel like I see a new breakout. Now, could it happen tomorrow? Yeah, sure. Um, and that would be something interesting to note. Whether or not the vitamin C is effective, because vitamin C can be a pretty big molecule to get down into the skin, debatable. But let me read the back because I don't think I did that in the beginning. Actually, no, for a fact I didn't do that at the beginning because I'm really bad at my job. So Maybelline New York skin tint up to 24 hours plus vitamin C derivative, which is always interesting when they don't just say like vitamin C or like something like that. Um, they'd say just a derivative of it, so they're kind of being a little bit more transparent, but it almost like makes you like, why didn't you just say vitamins? I don't know. It's something that interesting that pops up in my brain. Okay, so it says buildable skin light coverage. So they say it's buildable. I disagree. I mean, you can build it up when you apply it, and yes, it'll look different, but it doesn't like that buildability once you've worn it a little bit kind of goes away, at least in my 4 hours of experience. Weightless feel. I hate reading on reflective surfaces. Weightless feel. Natural radiant finish. Agree with that. Look at the places where I'm not oily. It still has that radiant finish. Here where I'm like a little bit oily, it still looks great. My under my eyes, I mean, it all looks good. I did put on eye serum before I put my makeup on, but like everything was so dry that like I needed some help. It wouldn't have changed dramatically my makeup. And then uh, let's see, resist sweat, water, and transfer up to 24-hour wear, which I'm always like I know that like we're seeing like longer and longer possibilities on labels, and it's a selling point, right? But like I don't think we should be endorsing 24-hour wear, because change you should take off your makeup for 24 hours in general. But like it's not like you don't have to touch up in that time. But anyways, and then shake well before use, which I didn't do because I didn't read the label. So I will shake. I can see from the bottle. I don't know if you can see this well. Maybe if I get the light, there it is. So right here in the product, there's kind of a line of demarcation. And right here, I noticed this when I grabbed the bottle, but I just didn't know if it was the lighting or not. But right there is the line right there, everything below it has a little bit of pearl. So you can kind of see like this kind of really fine shimmer to it. Not it like shimmer almost sounds like glitter, but there's kind of like a pearl essence to it. And then before that, it just looks like regular foundation. So I do think that shaking it, and this is why when you draw like the vial up to the dropper up, draw the dropper up to empty the dropper and then re-get the product in the dropper, because what's in the dropper is going to separate as well. That's why I always like push it all out and then pull up new product. But that helped redistribute the pearl a little bit. More shaking, more better. Just how it is. But so far, I ain't mad. I ain't mad at it at all. Maybelline, you might be that girl. You weren't always that girl. I saw you 10 years ago. You weren't that girl. Not to me. For some other people, yeah, you were, but like, no, not to me. But I'm super happy with what we have so far. So let's continue the wear test days. I feel like giving foundations and if I can give as many opportunities for products to work and finding the way to make them work for my skin and maybe your skin, if you got the product and have a similar skin type or even different, and you can kind of get an idea of how to make it work for you, that's always better to me than just like applying it and being like, it's gorgeous, it's perfect, go out and buy it. Like that to me gives no information. I'm not ever going to be um, that kind of consumer, especially when it comes to makeup longevity on the face, because you can't see that when you just apply it. And that's a really frustrating part about being a makeup artist, because you spend a lot of money on a lot of products that don't work. But also, if you're just buying makeup for yourself, uh, this turned into a random rant. Um, but you know, if you're just buying makeup for yourself, I mean, like this, I believe was like $18, same price as the Blur Stick. And there's some skin tints in the drugstore section that are cheaper that I want to try. There's a Wet n Wild one that's like $6. Um, and and you know, there's a pretty big color selection on this that I want to check how many colors are there. However, you know, I totally lost my train of thought. Cool. Okay, I remember. So with and see with the holographic packaging, like you can't, you know, barely see it. Like you got to get your extra strong readers out just to read it, because like reading it is hard. I know people like shiny things, but like you got to hold it at the right angle to be able to read. But anyway, so this is $18, which isn't much cheaper than a lot of other foundations. And so if you bought it and you don't like it and you're at a place, you bought it from a place where you can't return things that you just didn't like, um, and they weren't defective, they just didn't work for you. You'd have to eat that cost, and then you'd still have to buy something else that might not work for you. And you read all the reviews, and they're all glowing, and you still get the product, and it's still shit. So that's what all these wear tests are for, because I have been through the ringer of good products, bad products, everything in between, and I found the best way is is doing wear tests. And if you have the opportunity to go in and wear them, like, and try them out in store, wear them all day, all that, go out in natural sunlight, make sure the shade matches you, because store lights are deceptive. I feel like it makes such a big difference. And Yeah, So I'm gonna clean my face, and I am going to try this tomorrow, and we'll see how it works. Okay, so we're gonna be on day 2 of the wear test of the Maybelline Super Stay plus C, plus vitamin C. Uh, it's I have been looking around, and so it's interesting that in the part that is kind of able to be read, it just says plus vitamin C, but then when you read down a little bit, it says plus vitamin C derivative. Same thing on the website. In the just the name on Ulta is Super Stay 24-hour skin tint plus vitamin C, and then they're like asterisk vitamin C derivative. Just interesting. I mean, um, just to to be, I don't know. So I'm looking at Ulta. It looks like they have 18 shades. It looks like they might go super dark. If I recall correctly, a lot of Maybelline products that I've tried have pulled really red in the darker shade ranges. So I don't know if they've fixed that, if they've actually tried it on humans, which is something that always annoyed me. It's like, okay, you have these deeper, darker shades, but like, did you try it on anyone? Like, because like, who does this fit? And I would say, so I'm in the color 110, which is the second to lightest color. And I would say that just looking at the website, I could probably wear the 4 lightest colors, given like even being as light as I am. Um, so maybe not the fourth one. It's that would be a little dicey. 112 is like a little pink, but it's still light enough. And then 120 is definitely too dark for me. So like 3 or 4 shades of that could be my skin tone. I think that that is a little silly, and kind of what we have in the deep and the deep dark shades are a little just come on, work with us a little bit. So it goes down to 375. Um, uh, the foundation is $18 at Ulta. So I'm gonna shake it this time. I've already primed my face. I put the most moisturizing primer I have on my breakouts. Now it's been like 2 days since I've worn this, and I did my like vampire makeup last night. So I think that given like the rubbing alcohol and all of the stage type makeup that I did on my face, I'm not gonna blame the Maybelline for breaking me out just yet. I just don't think that's fair. So I'm shaking the bottle so we can see that the pearlescence is definitely uh, more distributed throughout the bottle. You can see that there's a little bit more kind of right in that spot, but at least it's kind of throughout the bottle. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna apply some foundation under, sorry, some concealer underneath. I'm gonna be using the MAC Studio Finish um, concealer, and I'm gonna be uh, kind of spot concealing the areas that I want covered. I also changed my vertical labret. This is my Medusa, because I didn't love the jewelry, and also it was turning my skin green because it was really cheap. So I'm gonna conceal over that. So just the spots, not doing like a full wash or like highlight of concealer. Just kind of applying it over, and then I'm going to blend the edges a little bit. I know it'll cover this redness because it did it before, so I'm not too worried about that. It's just these kind of breakouts that peek through that I would like to avoid. I'm really broken out right now. I haven't been this broken out in a while. In a long while. all of these. I don't know what happened. We're just gonna see what it does with there. So I've concealed over these spots, and I'm just gonna blend the edges because this doesn't have a lot of coverage. And how I'm blending the edges, instead of buffing things out like you would like on the eye or something, I'm just taking what's left on the brush and what is kind of on the perimeter of what I placed, and I'm just tapping it because I want it to disappear under the skin tint. Now, is it still gonna look like I have breakouts? Probably, but they're gonna be a lot less noticeable, hopefully. I really like this concealer. It's so insanely good. And if you forgot that Mac was that girl, Mac's that girl. They used to have this concealer in like a trio, so you could get kind of like slightly highlighty um, with your color range, kind of depending on which one you picked up. Highlighty, word of the day. Damn, so much. What did I do to this? Also, I made sure to prime my mustache area. I'm relatively freshly shaven. I shaved yesterday. Okay, so it's more blended, right? I'm still a red ass person, but you know, that's just who I am. So 7 minutes in, we haven't applied any foundation. I liked the beauty sponge. I thought it did a great job. So I'm gonna release any product inside, go back in and draw up. I was afraid that it's just gonna just drip off the side onto everything I love. So I'm gonna put down my first little amount. Again, kind of like a blueberry size. It's very liquidy. So, but that makes it thinner as it applies onto your face. And I actually watched my previous video to see what I liked instead of trying to remember what I liked and didn't like about the foundation. So hopefully we can get this to be the most magical foundation of all time. Then I just kind of drag it down the neck a little bit. I don't feel the need to dab it just because I'm just blending it into what was there before. I know I have like a little bit of leftover makeup on from around my eyes from yesterday's Luke, my vampire look. which I can't decide if I like or not. Let me know what you think. I can't decide. Cover that up. So I didn't do any color correction. I just put a high coverage concealer. I find that color corrections is often too much, especially with a light coverage foundation like this. If I don't want to apply a lot of layers, I generally don't lean towards color correction unless I really have to, which I haven't really talked that much about color correction because, again, not my thing as much. So I've applied it to the skin. It does look like there's makeup on the skin, but it looks very nice. With the spot concealer, I could get away with the blueberry sized amount, and was able to cover everything that I needed. Apply extra coverage here in places where I felt the need to. Now, I'm going to apply powder, which I did not do yesterday. So, the changes for today so far have been applying a different moisturizer, sorry, moisture, a different, a different primer in places where I'm breaking out, spot concealing where I'm breaking out, which made me have to use less product. And then I'm going to apply a little bit of powder to add some longevity. Now I'm going to take some translucent powder, but I'm not going to press it into my skin in the same, like, kind of baking-esque way that I usually do. I'm going to take a brush, fluffy brush, and I'm going to apply the powder, the translucent powder, all over. So this is going to reduce a lot of the shine and luminosity of the foundation, but hopefully increase the wear and appearance of the makeup as the day goes on. Oh, I should have taken. I'm going to take any excess product out of my um, nose fold. Sometimes if you wait a little bit, so this is before you put powder on, I made a mistake there. But if you, before you put powder on, if you wait a little bit once you have the foundation on, and let the makeup settle, any place, including like eye folds, folds here, any minor crow's feet, or folds here, and you wait, and then you take a brush and you take off any excess and you just kind of blend it gently. That's going to help the makeup look better for longer. Do that before you powder though. Do as I say, not as I do. Sometimes there's so many steps to make if you're just like, I'm doing what I can. So in addition to applying loose powder in a light layer over everything, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a more uh, packed and blunt uh, foundation brush, and I'm just going to take the same translucent powder and I'm going to stamp it into some of the places that I do get really oily, because I think that that is something that I'm just gonna have to do. Um, but I'm not doing the baking process. I mean, I'm basically doing it, but I'm not using a crazy amount to do it. I'm just doing it in places like this. And then also I'm gonna get my nose, because my nose can be a little bit finicky, but I'm just using kind of the remnants on the brush. So I really don't have any luminosity on my skin right now. And, you know, that is not, I mean, no, I don't really. I think just the lights. Okay, cool. Keep dropping things today. It's been great. So it is 2:30 right now, and I have put my base on. Now, I have not put any setting spray or fixing spray on it. I just, the ones that I found that I actually liked, that I felt like actually did something, are so expensive that I'm just trying to not use them as much as possible. So I'm gonna go another day without using them. But I feel like this looks good as like a good skin day. Um, if you look at it in person, if you're a foot and a half away from me, like I am from my mirror right now, you're gonna see that I'm wearing makeup. It's not gonna be a secret. It is less of a secret with the powder on than without the powder, but even with it, you're gonna look like you're wearing makeup. I woke up today with the bags under, like the area under my eyes being much puffier than normal, so I have to keep that into account, that that's just what my anatomy is today. Eye creams with caffeine or products with caffeine are great at depuffing, or even just an ice pack. Um, uh, is good for depuffing that area when you wake up. But I find if I wear a lot of makeup the day before and have to do like a hardcore removal process, that typically I kind of am a little more broken out and more like my eyes are more puffy and things like that afterwards. So let's see how this wears. I'm gonna be doing a lot of cleaning and try to be pretty active today. I got a lot of goals to be pretty active. So fingers crossed that I am. And so hopefully we'll get to see kind of what this looks once I start to work up a little bit of a sweat. So yeah, so let's see how this works. You already know what I'm gonna say, right? I am so shiny. So it's been about 6 hours. It's 8:45. I think I finished the video at like 2:30. When I did it earlier, I didn't do any touch up powder, anything like that, which I know a lot of people touch up throughout the day, but I like to just kind of see what it does by itself. Um, we are taking glowy to a whole nother level. This is so shiny. It looks like I covered myself in Vaseline. Um, and the thing is, the makeup is still on. The coverage is still there. Where I spot concealed looks like no makeup has come off of that. So does the makeup stay on? Yeah, for the most part. There's a couple spots where I remember like gently like touching like my nose, and I tried to touch it as like little as possible, especially with my nose, but around my eyebrow too, just where they're like a little itchy, and like some of the makeup has come off the side of my nose. It's collected in the inner corner, even though I took some of that product out. That if my makeup gets oily, that's just gonna happen anyways. But let's just kind of like touch my face and feel what it feels like. I mean, it's undeniable that this kept on my face. We also have another problem, but let's get to that in a second. So let's talk about how oily my face is. It That's interesting. So it is very oily, but it comes right off like in a way that you almost feel like I can feel it. It's like the oil is sitting on top of the powder, and the minute that I just like tap a little bit, because I don't really think that that removed any product, maybe like a tiny little bit, but I just tapped it with my finger, and yeah, it's not taking product off, but it's taking like some of the shine away. Like it's like maybe like combining some of the oil with the powder. Because I did apply extra powder in these specific spots. Um, here, yeah, I mean that feels a little bit more oily right there, but that's so it feels distinctly different. I haven't I purposely have not touched my face, so this is an honest like impression of what's happening, and I'm not quite sure how to explain it because normally if I'm this oily, my makeup is broken up, and I just it feels disgusting, and I can feel it feels so much less oily than it looks, which makes me think that touching up with a powder would be really effective. Touching up with powder and then also taking a little brush and redistributing everything around here. So let me get a little brush and test my theory. So I'm taking a fluffy, longer dome-shaped brush that doesn't have anything on it, and I'm just taking that and moving around a little bit. I think most of my makeup had moved out of the area, um, so there's not a ton of coverage, but it does remove the excess that had built up there. You can see how it's just kind of smoothing it out. I mean, it's definitely doing something completely different in places where I touched it. I'm going to use my foundation powder from One Size and a powder puff and see how it works with more powder on top of it rather than having to like touch your face. Or I feel like blotting would also work, but if you were, some people are compact people. Um, okay, that looks way worse. I would not say putting powder back on top is the answer. But for some reason, touching it and like merging it with the powder somehow does, and your fingers don't feel greasy. That's very different. Now, like I said, some of it did slide off my nose. Let's check the forehead because that tends to be way more problematic. So, in the forehead, I'm definitely having a different sensation than I was on my cheeks. Um, Foundation is coming off. I don't know if you can see kind of like that line right there is where that that foundation's coming off. So foundation is coming off of my forehead. Um, if I maybe had applied translucent powder beforehand or beforehand, or you know, blotted earlier in the day, maybe this would not be a problem. Because like this is an entirely different experience than this side of my face. Um, Now, wah, 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 we got to talk about something. This is making me break out. I, I have I have more breakouts, more active breakouts that I did not have when I put this on, emerging now. And this is what I experienced with a lot of drugstore foundation. So that means that unfortunately this is not going to be the foundation for me because it will continue to break me out. My skin, it's not about skin getting used to it or anything like that. no, whatever is in this is going to make my skin break out. I've had this with other Maybelline foundations, a lot of other drugstore foundations. Unfortunately, it's just what I encounter with a lot of them. So it having more active breakouts is definitely a deterrent for me. If you don't have as sensitive skin as me, um, then I could see like slightly dry but not flaky to fairly oily. This foundation working for you. Um, I'm going to attempt, if I remember, another wear test, even knowing that it breaks me out because I love you and also science. Uh, I'm going to attempt another day of trying to make it work and trying to have it look a little bit more like this at the end of the day than like this, because to me, this is not wearable. I am like when I started the camera, it's so shiny. Like it really just was like I bathed in chicken grease. Um, but the fact that I can press into it and just like kind of eliminate that level of shine, but not lose enough pigment that it's not doing anything is pretty remarkable. It's still got so much coverage. In my chin, at the very, very end, I have a little bit of redness coming through, but like everything that I spot concealed, which, you know, we can thank MAC and Maybelline for doing that. It stayed covered. The coverage is still there, um, and I do feel a little bit of oil coming through on the sides right here, where again I don't really get oily, which that's just an interesting sensation. I think that so many of these skin tints are going to be more on the hydrating side. And if I had to think of all of the skin tints that were going to be drying, this would probably have been at the top of my list, for the driest one, because it's a Super Stay product, and Super Stay products tend to be very dry, um, or tend to be more drying because they're meant to like last. That's their big claim throughout the whole line. That's why they're in the Super Stay line. So they do stay, and you know, going in, you know, even you know, going with a clean brush and just kind of like combine the powder and the product again. I mean, it's a very interesting uh, occurrence that's happening on my face that I don't quite know how to express how unique just being able, just tapping on my cheek a little bit, how that completely changed the makeup so much. I mean, putting powder on top without removing the oil, terrible, terrible, terrible. This looks cakey and messy, and it highlights every flaw that I have, every pockmark. Here, with the with how glowy it is, it does highlight a ton of texture that I have. While I'm here, because I did take some of the excess oil off just with my hands, because I don't have blotting paper. I guess I could have used a paper towel, but I didn't. Sorry. I'm gonna take the pressed powder now that I've removed some of the excess oil and see how that applies. So it looks significantly better. Um, and I bet that would help get some more longevity out of it. Is this preferred over a translucent powder pressed into the same area? I'm thinking that it won't be, but let's kind of see what things look like down here. I'm thinking that it won't be. Um, translucent powders tend to be much more finely milled. Um, and just a different beast entirely. But you can kind of see in this area where I applied that powder versus kind of as we go up here, um, it is mattifying quite a bit. So getting a few more hours out of your makeup, it's not looking bad. It's just not looking great, and it does like immediately makes under my eyes look a lot worse, which I don't compare it against this eye, compare it against what it was before, because my under eyes actually looked really good. Um, but as soon as I applied the powder over the oily side without uh, blotting, we'll call that blotting, even though we all know that was that was just a mess. um, so yeah, I feel like it definitely adds that you're wearing a lot of makeup, brings it into the you're kind of getting out of the skin tint reason you're wearing skin tint uh, territory into the you're wearing a lot more makeup territory. But if you had 6 good hours of makeup and then you need to look like you're wearing a little bit more makeup later in the day, might not be the worst. I don't know. That's up for you to judge. But I'll try to do another wear test of this and sacrifice my skin to it. Um, week and a half before my sister's wedding. So thanks, y'all. You didn't make me do this. It's all me. But yeah, it's definitely making me break out more. And yeah. So, anyways, yep. Let's see what happens when we continue this adventure. Okay, so it's another day. I have waited 2 days since my last wear test because the breakouts around my mouth were so significant. Yesterday, actually, 2 days ago, after I took my makeup off, I gave myself a facial and did like a crazy ton of extractions, and so I wanted to let my skin have time to heal. And so a lot of the congestion that I had is uh, going down, even though it's still red. I have one flaky spot right here, which, makeup's never going to look great over those spots, but we're going to try this. Probably is going to be the last wear test day, unless I, think of something different. So I've already put my primers on. I use my Smashbox Photo Finish, and I use my MAC Studio Finish mattifying primers on. Those are the primers that I use the most recent time that I wore it. I liked it. And I thought they did a pretty good job. I think the main difference today is going to be how I set it with powder, and also the touch ups that I do throughout the day, because I haven't been touching up throughout the day at all. And I think I'm going to try to see if I can do some touch ups and increase the longevity of it and keep it looking good, because yeah, I can touch most makeup up, but like if it doesn't make it look any better by the end of the day, then what's the point? So, so first I'm going to take my MAC Studio Finish uh, concealer. Now I was looking, and I do have the Maybelline Super Stay concealer. This is such a dry formula, and when I open it and apply it, it smells like straight alcohol. So putting this even on spots that I do get oily, not really here, but I just I don't like applying things that smell strongly of alcohol on my face because it just doesn't feel like the good, right call. So, I'm gonna pass on that one, even though because it's in the Super Stay line, the likelihood um, that it works well with with the foundation is generally higher because typically with line commonalities they try to make them work together so it when you buy everything you know they play they play well together. So what I'm doing is I'm applying um, my MAC concealer to the spots that I am pretty sure or know that the um, the skin tint is not going to cover. And for me, unfortunately, right now, that's quite a bit. So it's basically like I'm covering my entire lower half of my face. I'm just applying a thin layer and I'm placing it right now in the spots that I want it most concentrated. And then I'm gonna go and tap around the edges to kind of blend it. So tap around the edges of where I place the spot conceal just to blend it a little bit so that it's easier to cover. It's not like, okay, once I put my foundation over it, it's gonna be a lot of work. I talked very briefly about color correction, um, and in the last video or the last part, and I don't do a lot of color correction because I find that um, there's a lot of concealers, especially now, that can have so much coverage and wear so well that color correction isn't needed as much for a lot of people. That doesn't mean that it's not needed or necessary for certain cases, but I find less and less cases that it's needed for as makeup formulas evolve and improve for people. Um, just tap it around, do. No, I'm gonna do something different. I'm gonna just kind of just go for it and see if it works. I think I've tried it maybe once, and I can't remember if I liked the results, if it was like um, a big nope for me. And I don't even know what concealer I used, but it was when James Charles first started getting popular. He did this method of covering makeup or keeping makeup on his nose by applying concealer to his whole nose and then putting foundation on top of it, and it actually helped. Uh, it seemed to help keep the makeup on longer, and the nose has been something that because my nose tends to lean drier, but makeup still falls off of it. Um, I um, I kind of have the exact same problem. So I can't powder it, otherwise it looks super crazy. Which this is gonna look super crazy, but I also can't uh, sometimes keep the makeup on it. So I'm just gonna take the same concealer. This is a trio that has all the colors, and I'm just gonna put a thin layer of concealer, and this is a drier, thicker formula. And what I'm doing it is I'm applying it to my nose on those spots that just don't keep coverage well. I'm not going into the crease of my nose. It really does not need that there, and the more product that goes near the crease of the nose, the worse it's going to be for me because that's where a lot of makeup falls into. So now that I have my concealer on and my nose looks a little crazy, I'm going to apply my uh, uh, skin tint. I'm going to shake it first. I have already mentioned that this does or did make me break out. We're going to see if that happens again. I have pretty strong likelihood that it will, just based on my experience with most drugstore makeups. Uh, so I make sure I draw up new product that's nice and mixed up, and I'm putting that blueberry size, which for me is the entire, pretty much the entire amount that I draw up. I'm going to use my wet beauty blender again, or my damp beauty blender again. I like beauty blenders that are wet with water. I don't like using any setting sprays for them. I find that that usually messes up the formula pretty, or just it just doesn't work like I'm seeing a lot of people say it works for. So I'm gonna start applying my foundation as I normally would, just kind of liberally to my face, bouncing it in rather than smudging it, dragging it, anything like that. Make sure I get my upper lip. I think in the first day that I wore it, I had some makeup breakdown only in my upper lip, and I think with the combination of primers and how I apply my foundation, I think that that was probably a huge part of why I broke down there, because that's not a really common occurrence. Actually, I don't know if that's really ever happened to me unless it broke down everywhere else. So on the neck, I tend to just kind of put a little color and drag down because I don't want a ton of coverage typically on the neck. But there are some people who their face, their neck, and their chest are all different colors. So depending on who I'm applying makeup on, sometimes I'll apply more makeup on the neck. But typically, that's not a place where I apply a lot of makeup. And also, like when you're moving your neck, and the neck is can crease. Makeup can crease in the neck as well. Especially, I've noticed that especially when I'm doing special effects makeup, and you know in the neck area can get pretty dicey with the wear of it. So I'm just gonna put this all over and get this into my nose creases. Make sure makeup is everywhere I want it, so kind of have to get it in there, which is always a very pleasant experience. So making sure, probably a little bit more right there. Yeah, I had to go to town with my extractor uh, to get a little bit of that congestion out. Sometimes it's just like that. So I admittedly have not been keeping up with my uh, facials. Just typically wash and moisturize. Um, Even things like exfoliating, probably should be doing more, but just just forget things. I forget a lot of things. So to if that helps or hurts anything in anyone's mind about me remembering things and how that places on importance. Um, there you go. So now that I've applied the foundation, it looks good. It does look like I'm wearing a little bit of makeup, but it doesn't look like I'm drowning in makeup. So what I'm gonna do before I powder is take that brush that I used when I applied it last, and I'm gonna take any excess makeup and I'm kind of wipe on my hand because it's already, you can already visibly see that the makeup's building up there. And if you have any other spots under your eye, any crow's feet, your nasolabial line, anything like that where you find the makeup's already bunching up in the first like 5 minutes, then go ahead and take away any excess makeup. So any lines like right here. Sorry, I have sleep in my eye, which didn't catch that earlier. So anything that is taking on extra product. And then for me, I'm going to take a different side of the Beauty Blender and I'm going to blend the foundation into it. It's just kind of, this is not the side that I picked with the product. Oh shit. That's okay, because that was my pressed powder from one side. And then, yeah, so just, I don't want a ton of crazy makeup there. On my nose, it's already looking very dry, so was that the best method? Doing the concealer? I don't know. We'll see. So I, luckily I already have an idea of how it wears on my nose. Now I'm going to use my setting powder, and I'm going to use my talc-based setting powder, my Coty Airspun. I could use my RCMA colorless or other talc-free products that I have, but right now I'm going to go with a tried and true. Now, when I applied this last time, I brushed it lightly over everything, and then I stamped it with this brush into the places where I know I get more oily. And while I looked really oily at hour 6, when I touched my face, I was like, I can I can get the oil absorbed back into that powder. So I'm gonna bake my face, which I do a lot anyways. I don't do a lot in wear tests, especially something like a skin tint, because I want to see if I can get away with not doing it, because we're I'm hoping for the goal of one day not having to do that and just being able to wear a lighter amount of makeup, but that's just not what's happening for me right now. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna stamp a ton of powder on my forehead, and I'm just gonna go down. Now, if you have any creasing before you apply the powder, which I don't, but just showing you, not with this foundation, with other foundations, yes. Just go in and remove those spots before going back in and applying an insane amount of powder to your face. There are translucent powders that do not have a white cast if you have a deeper skin tone. So they have a little bit of color, and so if this type of powder makes you ashy and gray, there are plenty of powders out there. Um, I don't know. I mean, there are powders out there. I don't know. It really depends on what is available to you. I know that Ben Nye, I think with their colored powders, I think they have like 12 shades, a couple of which I have in my kit, because this doesn't work for everybody, every skin tone, but there are powders that have more range in other skin tones. So now that I've applied it like this, to pretty much everywhere, I'm also going to go in my nose crease and really press into there. So I'm going to take the places that I am less oily, and I'm going to brush off the powder there first. So I'm going to take the areas that are less oily for me, and I'm going to brush off the powder there first. Although you might have noticed me talking about how pretty much every place is an oily place for me right now. But definitely in this area, I don't need that much powder. Do I need it to combine with the foundation so that it sets it? Usually, yes, with most foundations for me. These areas typically don't get oily for me, but the pigment typically fades. I did feel a little bit oily there, but when I last applied it, but I didn't feel like baking level oily, so I'm also going to go underneath here. Because I have so much redness, when that makeup comes off, it looks a little crazy. And then, so baking and letting the powder really set into this area is going to help the longevity of it. Now, I'm going to grab that small brush that I was working around my nose with, and I'm going to start brushing the powder away from my nose with that, because that is a dry spot and just a temperamental spot as well. Just trying not to piss it off, really. And then my nose, just in kind of gentle strokes to kind of get that off. Wow, I'm so freaking pale. Sometimes it shocks me. And you can determine how long that needs to set for you. Some people will do like their whole eye makeup, and then if they have any fallout, it falls out. Makeup fallout and glitter will fall into the powder here, and you can easily remove it. Some people they just let it sit for like a minute and a half. Really depends on you. I have so much powder in my hair too. um, and how your skin operates. For me, because I know I'm going to be doing some like setting throughout the day, I'm just going to go and I want to get this video over with so that I can get through my day. I'm going to go ahead and take off this excess powder. Now, because I'm going to be setting with powder throughout the day, um, I think I'm always kind of on the fence about setting powder and fixing mist, things like that, because sometimes they, like, going over them and doing things, I'm not quite sure how that's going to work. But let's give it a try and see. I'm gonna try to do half my face with the mist, just so I can see if there is a difference. And that's one less wear test day. Because like I said, if this product does make me break out, then I'm not going to continue to use it. Okay, so on this half of my face, I'm going to use a setting spray and a fixing spray. So I'm using the Professional Super Setter, and I'm just going to take a makeup palette and hide half my face. And then a little fan. And you might be able to see already how first of all, how much powder I have in my hair, but also how that did combine kind of the powder and the foundation versus this side, which looks a little bit more powdery, a little bit more crusty dusty, but sometimes for us oily or combo folks, that's necessary at the start of our makeup day so that throughout the makeup day we can continue to look like badass bitches. So I'm gonna make sure that's nice and dry. I have found, and like I know the fans and all of that seem excessive. They might honestly be, but I do find that I have better results when I get my setting powder, sorry, my setting spray to dry down faster rather than letting it air dry. Um, it depends on the spray too, but if I get it to dry down faster with a fan, even just going like this is free, assuming that you have a hand to do it with. Um, and it getting it to dry down faster does make a difference in how it wears. That's my experience. Also, you do want a fine mist. The finer the mist, the better your makeup will look. If you get a really cheap uh, setting spray, it might be really great, but if the mister is really not great at getting those fine particles, a fine spray, then you're gonna have an issue. One example of this for me is the Elf. Oh my gosh, it's like glued to the. Oh god, it leaked everywhere. Okay, that's coming out of the bag. Um, okay, but like the Elf one, it's not. super thick mist, but it's not as fine as other misters that I've used, and I get like dots, like wet dots on my face, and it looks like my makeup's broken up immediately. I also took another spray out of here that did the same thing. It was worse, way worse than the Elf one. But some people really like the NYX. I said Elf many times, didn't I? This is NYX Dewy Finish. Um, and yeah, so finer spray. So even if you took the spray that you like and you put it in a mister that's finer, you might find better results for this. I'm not putting this back in my bag. That's so rude. Okay, so I have two finishing sprays. I haven't actually, I'm not sure if I've tried this one yet or just once. When I was talking about translucent setting powders, like this is one, this is Topaz from Ben Nye. This is Chestnut from Ben Nye. So if you are a deeper skin tone and you're looking for setting sprays, both of these are two of many colors that are available so that you don't get that super white cast. There's also the classic, like Ben and I did the banana powder that led to a million yellow setting powders, which I love. I'm not really sure if I want to like risk it on a fixing spray. I don't know. So I'm gonna go ahead and use my one size aerosol. So it says it's a setting spray, but people who talk about it who know the difference between setting spray and fixing spray, they talk about this as a fixing spray. So just so you know, not all fixing sprays say fixing sprays, um, which makes makeup extra confusing, doesn't it? But this will have ultra fine distribution. So let's, and you definitely don't want to breathe during that one. That's basically like it's basically hairspray. Um, and I know that using hairspray to set your makeup is not a new trend, but this is made for skin, as I've said before. So my face always feels like a little tight after I use this, but my makeup does look better. So I hope I remember when I am doing my final like read through of everything. I'm gonna try also to really focus on my nose, because as that's always kind of a problem spot for me, and see if that makes a big difference on my nose as well. This side does not have the setting um, products. So it is 4:15 right now, and so I'm gonna wear this. I'm gonna try to check in a little bit more frequently, but wear it for longer so that I can see how it wears throughout the day. And yeah, let's see how she goes. Hi everyone. This is a couple weeks after I've done the Maybelline wear test, and I guess I never finished it. I was trying to find the last video for it, but between making things for commissions um, and getting ready for my sister's wedding, I just didn't do the last video. I think that I encountered the same issue where whatever I did, it broke me out. I think that some of the setting sprays helped, and it's been like over a month at this point of trying to remember. I was trying to remember like what exactly the results of spraying half of my face and not spraying the other half were, and I can't honestly remember, but I do know that I broke out significantly that day, and it just the breakouts just kind of kept coming for like weeks, um, because my skin's like that sensitive. So when I talk about a lot of drugstore foundations breaking me out, this is what I'm talking about. And so yeah, my face has been a mess, and just getting it back to this has been a lot of trials and tribulations, and it's still not great, especially underneath the chin. But let's just not talk about that. I think that if you have combo skin and if you're not super sensitive and you don't break out at a lot of foundations, I think you might really like this foundation given how it just doesn't break down with oil. However, you kind of have to do a couple different things to keep it from looking very oily throughout the day, but it doesn't break down through the oil, and that is what sets it apart from a lot of different foundations. So I think that there's a lot of potential with this, and it really is about kind of what you're willing to do to keep the makeup on and keep the makeup looking good. So I hope this video, and I hope all of this kind of helped give you an idea of what the makeup was like. And if you like this foundation, or if you don't like this foundation, or you are curious, let me know. I always like to hear everyone's opinions about these when I do these wear tests, because for some people this might be their favorite foundation or something like that, and I would be, you know, that's perfectly fine. Like if you like this foundation, that's great. But unfortunately, I want to like it so bad. Like watching it back, I was like, oh my gosh, it looked so good on this day and this day, and how I could work with it and whatever. Like all of that stuff, I want to like it, but I can't because it's just like it's just awful on my skin, and that's just something that I can't get over. So I hope you liked watching this video. I hope it was informative, and yeah. So I'll have some new videos up shortly, and thanks for sticking with me. I've been really sick for the past couple weeks since I came back from North Carolina from my sister's wedding. I got really sick, and I was sick for like 3 straight weeks. So getting back and even getting my voice back has been something that's been really challenging. So I'm happy to be here, and I didn't want to like cough and like be gross around all my makeup. So anyways, yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.